death. How final do you think human lives really are? How precious is our mortality? Some may believe in reincarnations while others may believe there's a heaven or hell. There may be others out there who don't even think anything comes after death, just a dark, empty void for all eternity. Sallyface is a boy that explores those questions and beliefs. But what if I told you these answers of our existence transcends this very world itself? Sallyface is a game that I always heard about and was aware of due to the fandom. Now, whether that is a good or a bad thing, we will discover within this very video. But like always, before we can talk about the game on a deeper level, I need everyone to be on the same understanding. So first, we need to talk about the game in its entirety. Let's get into it. It was just like the last time. Only this time, it started in a hospital. The game immediately throws you into the deep of it. We come to find a boy in a hospital with bloody bandages wrapped around his face. The phone rings and the boy picks it up. Hello? It's okay, Sal. Everything is going to be okay now. Come and see me. What are you talking about? Sal, come find me. Weird. Sounded like my dad. Turning on the lights, we really see how bad his injuries are, and whatever happened quite recently as the pillow is stained with his blood. Once leaving the room, Sal makes his way outside. Once he does, it's a cloudy, rainy night, and people can be seen mourning someone's death. However, not even one of them pays attention to this very injured child walking about. I will say, despite the moody environment and terrible injury, somehow Sal keeps his childlike innocence as he goes to speak to a dog. Oh, who's a good doggy? Who's a good boy?
I buried her alive, kid. You tell me.
Huh?
Go see for yourself.
So this is what I'm getting myself into this time, huh? Sal does as he's told and sees what's buried. The tombstone reading Diane Fisher, Mother. Within the grave, it becomes some kind of underground bunker that connects into an apartment hallway. At the end of it, Sal runs into his father, who claims that he isn't his son, because his son is no murderer. Then walking further down the hallway, it turns into a morgue with a bloody text saying, "This is your fault." Sal walks past the ominous message to find his mother. Mom? Are you? And that's when I woke up.
Yes, it's an interesting dream. I think we should come back to that dream later, but for now, can you tell me more about that body?
Which one?
The second one. The one from the apartment.
Dad and I just moved in. I had a weird feeling about that place right away. Episode 1. Strange Neighbors. Sallyface and his father are shown in a new apartment. Boxes line the walls. He mentions that this is their new beginning and leaving whatever happened behind in New Jersey. A thing to note is that the father is completely different than how the dream portrayed him. He tells Sal to go explore the building while he unpacks. On Sal's adventure, he finds that his father uses sleeping pills just so he can actually sleep at night. Next, he runs into an asshole cop protecting something in room 403. Sal then takes the elevator up to the next floor and finds a man straight tweaking. He tells Sal we shouldn't be here and that the apartment is a dark place. As he says this, we hear the bathroom door lock right from behind us. Sal takes the hint and goes to another floor, bumping into Lisa, the apartment janitor. Next we meet Charlie. He's a stereotypical geek with completed sets of glitter ponies. When Sal doesn't know what that is, he starts nerding out about the show. Sal leaves and meets a recluse named Mr. Addison, and then runs into a detective who is checking in on Sal and his father, and when questioned if it was a murder, he answers, "I can't answer that." Alright, between you and me, that totally means yes. I'm just saying, like, here's an example. Well, let's say you are out hanging with the boys. You come home and your girl's mad because you're a little late. She asks you, "Where were you last night?" "You were out cheating, weren't you?" And you answer, "I can't answer that."
Oh my god. Is this nigga serious?
Anyway, going back to Lisa, Sal asks a bunch of questions regarding the building, and soon we find out that something happened in the apartment before Sal arrived. So this place does seem to have some dark secrets after all. Going to the basement, Sal sees a dark figure out of the corner of his eye. He meets yet another person named Larry, the son of Lisa. He turns out to be a cool dude and Sal's very first real friend. Sal questions him about the murder in room 403. Larry says he thinks Charlie's the one who did it. That's the geek that we met from earlier. Larry mentions that he wants to get some dirt on Charlie and give it to the detective, but first they'll need some evidence. While Larry distracts the cop who was blocking the door, Sal goes in to investigate. The outline of the body can be seen, and there's also a missing glitter pony. As Sal tells Larry about this, Larry knows how he's going to prove that he's the killer. Sal knocks out Charlie using the sleeping pills and Mr. Edison's tea that he gives to everyone in the apartment, and takes the stolen toy from Mrs. Sanderson's room to the detective and get the man arrested. While outside, Sal walks to the back of the white van and sees a pretty disturbing sight. We snap back to the older Sal once again, and then it's revealed that Sally Face is in prison awaiting trial of homicide. Sal? Sally, where are you? Don't wander off so far, sweetie. I want to see the doggy, Mom. Can't you hear him? Why don't you wait until your father gets here, okay? He should be here any minute now. But I really want to see it. Please. Please, can I go pet the doggy? Alright, Sal. Just give me a second to get my purse. Then we can go together. Yay! I went over there by the trees. After walking long enough, Sal's face becomes bloody. He enters into an ambulance and sees the murder of Mrs. Sanderson. Charlie awaits Sal in a dark, voided room as he says, "I thought we were friends, Sal." As his face splits open, showing a skeleton with red glowing eyes. a younger Sal wakes up from his nightmare. Okay. Lots to unpack here. Lots. That is definitely a pretty hefty first episode. Strange Neighbors, episode 1. There's definitely something supernatural happening here. What I find interesting is that it was at first a retelling of memories. It starts off with a dream, and then the doctor guy asks for a retelling of the story, and we see that even within his dream, even within his retellings, dreams still shine through with the ending of that. Because at the very end of the episode, we are playing in the perspective of Larry, because during that episode, Larry actually tells and retells how he saw and why he thinks Charlie is the murderer in the first place. And it's interesting to see that stuck with Sal to the point where it started merging with his own dreams as he awakes and is viewing the murder in his own perspective, or in Larry's perspective. What do you guys think happened to Sal's mom? The reason why I asked this is because it's very important to the story of what happened to her, just based off the fact that the very first thing we see is Diane Fisher's grave, and the first real jump scare you get in this game, where you see her face. They make it seem like it was such a gruesome murder, yet we see her face is pretty well preserved, and maybe there's a little blood smudge on the top of her head, but that was about it. And I just really wouldn't I don't know, I guess I'm thinking like there was that wolf. So if you guys were watching it, right before the end of the bloody face Sal that we see in the flashback or the nightmare, we actually do see a wolf mask, a wolf ear, big bad wolf. I really don't know, but obviously it's foreboding and making it seem like that was the reason as to what happened to us. So maybe a moling of some kind. I'm not really sure. This is supernatural, so maybe a fucking wolf ghost. This is my life now. I know. What I find interesting also to still harp on Diane Fisher's death is that in his dreams it always seems like it's tailored to Sal's fault, right? Where it literally is painted in blood. This is your fault. Hold on, don't want this to turn off. Or framing it in a way where she's like, hey, just wait up for me, and Sal doesn't wait up, and then it results in his injury and hypothetically Diane Fisher's death as well. Episode 1, Strange Neighbors. You meet a lot of strange figures. You meet the recluse, Mr. Addison. He's interesting. He gives out tea to people, and all the adults like it. So is that like implementing drugs in the people? I don't know. Maybe he's drugging them. That's why Charlie was deep doing that shit. You saw that shit? Don't clip that. We met a lot of people, and I'm willing to see where this goes, just because a lot of times people like to, how do I say it? People like to compare and contrast Franbo and Sally Face. And while I was in the mindset of playing Franbo when I came here, and I was like, okay, maybe things are going to be a little ambiguous and I'm going to have to read between the lines again. And then things just started happening where I'm like, okay, well, that's a demon. That's real. So we'll have to see. But let's get straight into episode 2. Episode 2, The Wretched. Episode 2 begins with Larry and Sally Face chilling together. Sally mentions that he's having really bad nightmares, and he thinks that it has something to do with the building. Larry seems to know something that Sal doesn't, and takes him to see something. Larry takes him to a treehouse. Larry explains that his father made a treehouse before he disappeared. Apparently, Larry's had a pretty rough life after his father's disappearance, and he believes that this is due to a curse that he put upon himself. The demon that puts a curse on Larry was a fully black figure with a piercing red eye. Something we've seen while playing Sal. Sal decides to investigate further and try to break this so-called curse. He finds a puzzle missing a piece that belonged to Larry's father. Apparently, Sal, for the last few months, has been talking to dead girls and decides to show Larry his new abilities. However, the dead girl is shy and, well, becomes a dead end. However, Larry does know another supernatural fellow named Todd, and when we go to speak to him, he has a girl over named Ash. Sal stumbles all through the introductions, but it's sort of sweet to be reminded that this little dude Sal is literally just a kid who's shy around girls his age. After Ashley leaves, Sal tells Todd about his troubles, and Todd seems to know just a way to help, modifying Sal's walkie-talkie into something that he can communicate with the dead. And it seems like it works. We don't find Megan, but instead Greg, who seems to be tormented by the red-eyed demon from earlier. Todd goes back to his room to do some research of the history of the apartment, while Sal continues looking for any supernatural disturbances. Eventually, Sal makes his way to the treehouse from earlier, picking up some ghostly energy by the family photo of Larry and his folks. This phantom tries to warn us about something, but Sal can't quite make out what he's saying. Sal makes it known that his life is indeed weird. I mean, Sal, brother, you're wearing a prosthetic mask, and you're solving murder mysteries. I don't think this one specific event is what makes your life weird. I think it's been a little weird from the get-go. I'm just saying. Anyway, Sal stops by the resident, Miss Rosenberg. When he uses the Superboy gadget thing, it affects her. That Superboy gadget thing is actually the thing that Todd created for Sal to communicate with the dead. I forgot to mention that entire part. It's like walkie-talkie batteries and fucking antennas from the walkie-talkie connected to his Game Boy ripoff thing. I don't know. When he uses it near Mrs. Rosenberg, it causes her body to mummify for a second. She gets mad at us and kicks us out, so Sal heads back to Todd's room to check in, and the things that Todd found are truly strange, to say the least. After Todd's research, he wasn't able to find any murders in the apartment's history except for Charlie, which just happened. But what's strange is this is not our guy Charlie. Someone else took the fall for a crime they didn't commit. On top of that, the officer and detective's files don't even show up in any reports. Another thing Todd found was a missing persons case in 1987 of a little girl named Megan. The same Megan from the bathroom on the 5th floor. Sal notices she's wearing a cross in the picture and decides to use it to strengthen the connection of the other side. This time it actually works and Megan comes out. Larry is at a loss for words, but Sal begins asking some questions. Come to find out that there are some lies floating around in the police reports because Megan never died at the lake. However, Larry's father and Greg seem to go fishing there a lot. Before she could tell us any more details, she returns to the other side because her dad was coming back. With more questions than answers, the only thing Sal can think to do is to use his Superboy gadget in the murder room, which is all boarded up now. Sal has to go ask this hobo, dented head ass, no pants having, pigpen looking, shit but doesn't wipe his ad looking ass dude named David. My hate is not justified. He refuses to give us the crowbar until we tell the college students next door to chill out with the noise. Once we do, he gives us the crowbar and we get into the infamous 403. Once we enter, we speak to Mrs. Sanderson. She speaks to us through her sliced throat, which makes a beautiful sound.
Mrs. Sanderson? Who are you?
My name is Sal. I moved in after you died.
Oh, I can't remember much of it. Just hazy pieces, like waking from a dream. Do you know what happened to my Herman?
He couldn't bear to come back to this room. Movers came and took everything out for him. He looked totally defeated. He must have meant the world to him.
I miss him so much. This cold isolation is torturous. I wish he had never moved to this place. Then he would have never met them, and Charlie would have never... Oh no, it's coming back.
Don't worry, Mrs. Sanderson. Go. Hide.
Goodbye, Sal.
She's being very non-specific right now,
Like, she keeps using the words like it's and he's and we. Who the hell are we talking about right now? Sal tells her it's fine and she should go and hide. Apparently he understands way more than what I'm understanding right now. Sal then goes back to the 5th floor and gets into the room 504, only to find the ghost of Stacy brutally impaled by the bed springs. She doesn't say anything, but further into the room a hole can be found in the wall. Inside hangs a noose. Using that Superboy gadget, we get 8 chapters of a video game called Seeking Providence. These games all follow a specific character in the histories of the occultists and the disappearance of Jim Johnson and Rose being a part of the cult at some point. This is a optional section, and due to this I'll go more in depth much later in the video, but right now I just feel like talking about all this stuff will only ruin some of the story beats. Just know for right now, Rose betrayed the occult group and Luke is Megan's father and the one that every ghost seems to be scared of. After completing chapter 8 of the game, we see Luke's body hanging from the ceiling. Luke's body becomes a shadow with vengeful red eyes as he goes to attack Sal, but in the nick of time, Larry comes and blasts the red-eyed demon to bits, effectively saving Sal. With that, Larry, Todd, and Sal destroy the red-eyed demon, uncover decades of dark secrets behind the Addison apartments, and solve Larry's curse. That being, Larry was never cursed. Larry's father simply walked out on him, and this has become a reality for Larry to swallow. Back to present day, Dr. Eon interrupts Sal and says that they're out of time once again. Sal pleads that this was only half of the story as they drag him out of the room. Sal yells for the doctor to go see for himself, go to the treehouse and uncover the truth. Dr. Eon can be seen thinking about it. Something about Sal is telling him to at least go see for himself. Dr. Eon drives over to the treehouse, not really seeing anything of importance until Larry's ghost appears, startling Dr. Eon, causing him to fall out of the treehouse and break his neck, killing him. So, other than the obvious, Larry's dead? That's disheartening. Is this real? Am I dreaming?
White room is left with blue is left. Auf Luft ist Luft, auf Licht ist Licht. Echt flach, hopefully he's dead now.
What should I do?
Earth.
Huh?
Earth. Run.
Run! Within this white void, a voice tells Sal to run. A monster that looks like a camera or one of those film recorders with arms starts to chase after him, causing the screen to fuzz until Sal finally escapes through a door. When the screen clears, Sal is now being interviewed by a reporter. Sal has continued to plea as an innocent man, even with the unknown things he has done. But it must be terrible considering now that they're adding murders to his charge, which is the Sanderson case. And apparently, Charlie was also an innocent man. Sal remains pretty tight-lipped about most of the details. However, the reporter then asks, "What's the Bologna story?" Holy Holy shit. What an episode. 2 episodes in now, and I'm more than certain that each and every episode will be filled with lore and story. So yeah, before playing this, I really was expecting this to be somewhat of a similar narrative to Franbo, where I'd have to guess what was between the lines of supernatural and some other form of mental illness. But no, this episode goes straight supernatural right away, and something about that is just a little refreshing. Like, if you see my catalog of stories that I like to deep dive in, I have a knack for mental illnesses. Like, if you go all the way back, Kitty Horror Show, a lot of her games are about isolation or some form of mental, disability, right? And then you go to Cry of Fear and Afraid of Monsters, where a lot of it takes place due to drug-induced states or traumatic experiences that make you manifest these demons. And then you go to fucking, what else did I do? Silent Hill 2, and that's where the entire origin is supernatural, but it's coming from the subconscious of the tormented. And then what was the last thing I did? I guess Franbo, right? And then Franbo was literally that. It was about lobotomy and human experimentation and what was real and what's not. And then we get Sally Face, where it's just right in your face. I can take everything at face value without having to have a second thought about it. It's actually really cool. Now let's talk about Todd's findings, right? What could that mean? I'm very confused because he found a lot. Obviously, the bigger points were that there are imposters, or at least people taking the fall for something that didn't quite happen. Obviously, I'm referring to that Charlie, picture where it was not Charlie. It was some random dude. And then we get another example of some funny business happening when it comes to Megan's death, because Megan never died at Wendigo Lake. She never even went there. And yet in the police report, it says that. And also, due to her soul being in a bathroom, I don't know what kind of dark secrets that could withhold, but I know that there are some ghost rules where they die wherever they die, they have to kind of bind and stay there. So it's like, what you doing in the bathroom? What's she doing in the bathroom, bruh? Red-eyed demon being a Luke, connections to the games. As I said in Seeking Providence, we're gonna talk more about it. All you need to really know is that Luke is Megan's father, and that Greg was having an affair with Luke's wife at the time. And I guess he's not a cuckold and was like, hell no, and decided to kill them. I'm actually not sure if he's the result of their deaths, but it almost seems certain that it is. Dr. Eon's death, bro. Just take a look. You can't. Calm down, dude. You're gonna give yourself a fucking heart attack. This is important. If Sal doesn't get here soon, then... Did he just fucking die? Shit. And is that What? I am quite upset. I was actually getting a little attached to Dr. Eon, I will admit. I just was not expecting Dr. Eon to take a tumble and die. And the camera monster, Sal's inner turmoil shown in his dreams. Now, this one is an interesting narrative thing that I keep catching on to. So basically in the beginning, we see that it is a dream sequence, and a lot of it is directed to Sal, being that it is his fault, right? He will literally have a bloody text saying, "This is your fault," or the father saying, my son is no murderer, right? And a lot of these things seem like inner guilt, survivor's guilt almost. But yeah, going back to episode 1 where you walk as kid Sal and you meet the mom for the first time and she's like, hey, wait over by the trees. It also just seems to be like, survivor's guilt from Sal. And I'm thinking that a lot of what Sal sees becomes in his dreams. So like, for example, when Larry told Sal about Charlie, he dreamed of Larry's perspective. He never seen the death, but with his over-imaginative brain, he saw everything. And then now I'm thinking that since this report is happening as he's talking about it, maybe then it became something of a fear of his, maybe a fear of anxiety, and now those cameras are always following him. That's what he's running away from. Just a thought, no idea, I have no clue. And then what the hell can the Bologna story really expand on? I mean, it's called the Bologna story. Oh, Yuri, you you ignorant child. He has no idea. Episode 3, The Bologna Incident. Episode 3 begins with Mr. Dude. He asks himself, what if he's more than just a doodle? He proceeds to search for enlightenment, and when he comes across a triangle head who tells us where we can find said enlightenment. Mr. Dude climbs all the way down to the bottom of the paper only to find doodles that have been half erased. A wise man warns Mr. Dude of those who looked for enlightenment end up shells of their former selves. The wise lady asks, what is the truth worth to you?
Everything.
He passes her and peers into the void until Sal awakes from his dream and is in the middle of class. The teacher lightly scolds him, but apparently our boy is a math genius, and a Donald Trump lookalike, Travis, is burning with jealousy. Hey, freak! Nobody likes a goody two-shoes Sally face. And nobody likes a cliche bully, Travis. Right? Don't you have something better to do? Shut up, bitch! I wasn't talking to you! You know, if you took that stick out of your ass, you may actually enjoy yourself for once. Maybe even have a friend or two. Fuck off, loser. I have more friends than you'll ever have. You kiss your daddy with that tongue? I'm sure he... What the hell, asshole? Are you alright, Sal? I'm fine. Come on, let's report that jerk. Nah, don't worry about it. That'll just make things worse, trust me. I've dealt with bigger bullies than Travis before. Sal, you're bleeding. I'm okay, really. He makes sure we know by embarrassing us in front of the hoes, but it works out in our favor because Ashley isn't a hoe, but instead a loyal friend who doesn't even flinch at Sal's real face as she wipes the blood from it. Larry comes over mad as hell wanting to beat the shit out of Travis, but they calm him down and Sal shows his extraordinary emotional intelligence and says we shouldn't do anything because we don't even know what his home life is like. At lunch, it's Bologna day and it looks gross. Also, this is Travis's favorite day. This detail is very important much later in the story, but just keep that in your brain. Sal and the gang thinks something's really strange with the meat and refuses to eat it. Not Chug's fat ass. He asked for his girlfriend's food if she wasn't gonna finish it. Todd, being the brains of the group, decides to go test the bologna to see if there were anything weird on it or any weird bacteria, while Sal and Larry went to go find where the hell the school even gets the meat from. Todd finds nothing strange, but Sal and Larry find out that their teacher, Mrs. Packerston, actually supplies the school with the meat, but she lives in the apartment, so where the hell does she get the meat from? And to further our suspicion, in Mrs. Packerston's desk, Sal finds cult-related items. Not a good sign. Sal and his friends decide it's time to go check out the apartment. Within her apartment, not only does it stink horribly, but it is also filled with padlocks on every single door. Once unlocking each lock, they find there's a goat head in the refrigerator, neatly rolled packs of bologna in the freezer, and a room especially horrid with dirty diapers overfilling the trash bin, and beyond that, her supposedly dead husband is chained up and on life support. It seems Mrs. Packerston has been keeping this man alive for many years now. However, this is simply torture, so Sal unplugs him to release his lingering soul. Don't worry, it gets much worse. In the next room, bloody instrument lines the walls with some strange device in the middle of the room. Shoes and other clothing can be seen underneath the machine, and beside it is another cooler. Once opening it, we're shown the ingredients of the bologna. If not already clear, it seems as if Mrs. Patterson is with some kind of cult, maybe the same cult that we've been dealing with, and has been feeding the school human meat for some reason or another. Outside, Ashley finds a chute behind one of the paintings and accidentally falls down. Sal reveals he's been having these weird flashes that give him hints of the future. With this power, Sal knows how to get to where the chute leads, and it's here? An extremely medieval looking place with stone bricks and very pointy architecture. After solving some puzzles, Sal and Larry do eventually find Ashley, who safely fell on a pile of bones, quickly leaving the area. Sal, Larry, Ashley, and Todd discuss their next move. Ashley thinks they should get the parents involved and actually call the police, while Todd and Larry think it's the best thing to do is just to kill Mrs. Patterson. I mean, she's old. Sal disagrees with both of them and decides that they should lay low and really figure out how big this cultist thing really is. Sal makes a good point, saying that the cultist members could be in a position of power to be able to keep all the secrets for so long. We flash back to present day and Sal is still being interviewed. The reporter asks, what happens to Mrs. Patterson? And Sal says later that night she was killed in a drunk driving car accident. This will be important. The reporter asks the relation of Sal and Ashley, and he says they are, or at least they were, best friends. She drops a bomb on Sal and hands him a paper. It's a news report of what Sal has done. It states, the Sally Face Killer, trial today for mass murder, including family. It also states that Ashley Campbell will be testifying against Sal. A single tear hits the paper as Sal crumples it. This really hurt Sal. What the hell could have happened between the two of them? Sal asks about Todd and how he's doing. The reporter states he's still unresponsive, as we're shown a now grown-up Todd in a straitjacket. Todd also gives me the most brutal jump scare of my entire life. I know what's wrong with Todd. Okay, you gonna jump scare me? Try me. I wasn't expecting that. So yeah, Todd has the red-eye demon disease thingy. That is not good. Sal awakes in his dream at 3:33 a.m. with the alarm blaring. In a very afraid of monsters dream sequence, Sal speaks to Beelzebub. In post-biblical Judaism and Christianity, Satan became known as the Prince of Devils and assumed various names, such as Beelzebub. Also, the time being 333 could also be in reference to the witching hour, which is the times between 3 and 4. Satan tells Sal to go check the doors before entering the 6th door. In each door lies one of his creations, the first being Trappian Root, which is a mangled mess of a mannequin body parts. They share great pain of being unloved. The next was their sins, bloody faces plastered on the wall as they share their incomprehensible pain. Lastly, peering eyes, sharing emotion of great regret and sorrow. Once going through the 6th door, we find stacks of VHS players. However, this is something we'll have to revisit way later down in the video. After that dream sequence, quite a lot of time seems to have passed. Sal is now much older and should be about 20 years old at this point. Sal lives with Todd and his boyfriend Nell, and Larry is moving in quite soon. For the past 5 years, they have gone back to a bit of normalcy, and Sal and the gang kept on researching the cultist activity during this time. Ashley is coming back to town, and she and Sal have a little date together. Larry flies Sal a text saying that he really does have a bad feeling about the Addison apartments. He believes something bad is still brewing, and that's when we get a knock at the door. Well, I will say a lot less jam-packed with details than this time around. Lots happened, don't get me wrong, however, not much was answered. There's still questions of why human meat, why is the cultist influence so widespread, and why did Sal commit mass murder? All things that will be answered very soon. But if I had to have at least try my hand and guess a little bit, I got 3 theories, okay? First theory being that I think the human meat might be some weird cultist thing, right? Maybe in order for them to be some form of, how do I even explain it? Fit to be a sacrifice of some kind. Maybe they need to ingest human meat. I don't know. Why is the cultist influence so widespread? Could be the same reason as to why Sal is able to see the future. Maybe, just maybe, there is a counterpart of Sal somewhere out there who's able to see the future and maybe use this kind of influence to gather a following. Because I mean, that is just literally what a cult is a group of people looking up to an individual as if they are God, or at least closest to God. And why did Sal commit mass murder? I'm willing to believe that he did something to that magnitude and was the scapegoat for it. I don't think he actually did it, but I think from the public, it may have looked that way. Just kind of how Jim Johnson just disappeared one day, maybe something similar happens to the apartments as people just disappear, and for whatever reason Sal is held responsible. But like I said, all things to be answered very soon, so let's get into it. Episode 4, The Trial. This episode hits the ground running. Sal is on trial and begins finishing his story from earlier. The knock at the door was no one other than Larry. This is supposed to be a big surprise because earlier in the game, Sal mentions he fell out of touch with Larry after high school. Sal and Larry walk over to Addison apartment to go find anything strange, and they pretty much search the place and really only find weird looking teeth lying around on each floor, and also Sal tells Larry about his father. Sal believes that the phantom that keeps speaking to us is Jim Johnson himself. He also tells Larry he thinks that his father is an alien due to a dream he had. The dream he's referring to is the They Are Sins characters. They were a collection of Mrs. Packerson's victims and Jim's homeland being invaded by the Shadow. Obviously, Larry doesn't take this very well and tells him to drop it. The two pay a visit to all of the residents, such as Todd's parents, Mrs. Packerson's old room, Ditted Head as David, Charlie's old room. The college students, Maple and Chug, now have a daughter named Soda, and Lisa and Sal's father. I said it, over the 5 years, Sal's dad bagged the baddie, Lisa, and they got married, making Larry and Sal officially stepbrothers. I mean, look at the wall. They're so freaking cute. Revisiting Mrs. Sanderson's room, they find the husband saying his goodbyes as he's about to leave town and ask for a bit of privacy. They do as they're told and leave, bumping into the homeless man from episode 1. He spouts some more cryptic messages and then disappears like Batman. Deeper in the room, a birdcage can be found, and of course, another puzzle is afoot. Using the teeth that we found all over the place and placing them in the right order, the cage begins to glow, and out pops a key. This key allows them to enter the temple once again. 2 hours go by as Sal and Larry search the place up and down and find absolutely nothing out of the norm, at least by Addison apartment standards. Later that day, Ash and Sal meet up, and Ashley gives this man the craziest hug, bro. Hold on. Let me get my... analyzing screeners. They are dirty as a mother. Zoom in, Yuri. Look at the head placement, resting right on Sal's shoulders, resulting in a full embrace. And in a full embrace, you know where the mammary glands are pressed against whatever they're embracing, i.e. Sal. Look at the height difference. Now look at the leg. It's doing that leg curly thing you see in all that manga and romance media. Sal has that unspoken riz. He bagged a baddie. Anyway, Ashley rides a motorcycle now and drives Sal to Wendigo Lake. On their date, they pretty much both share their troubles in life and how they're doing, both having completely different things on their minds, but still relating it to one another all the same. I absolutely loved this scene. During the time I was, streaming, so I couldn't really pay much attention, but afterwards, after doing some more research and writing the script, it's a beautiful scene. It really is, because coated with all this supernatural entities, the red-eyed demon, the cult is doing whatever they're doing, and people impersonating other folk, the game can get supernatural for a while. But then this little scene peels the onions, peels the layers off the characters, okay? At the end of the day, this is just about a boy who is getting over a traumatic experience, having identity problems, having everyday problems such as anxiety, depression, and just uneasiness about the future. Then we have a girl who's going through the same. She's having separation issues, homesickness, kind of confused on what she wants to do with life, a little bit of depression. And it's just, it really does just really bring it back to reality, where these two genuinely sit and just talk. Anyway, thanks to my chat, they fucking lied to me and they promised me I was getting a kiss scene, and instead I got this. Yuri, there's a Ash x Sal makeout scene coming up real soon. No, you're not. You're lying to me. That's the first time we heard Sal's voice. After the date, Ash goes home and Sal bumps into Todd, who asked how it went. While they were talking, Sal gets a message from Larry. Sal, I'm sorry, dude. Please don't blame yourself. Sorry for what? What are you talking about? It's time for me to go. You better not be doing anything stupid. It's too late. I'll be gone soon. Stop messing around, Larry. This isn't funny. Hey. Larry? Pick up. Pick up the phone, Larry. You better pick up. Oh God, Larry. Without a second thought, Sal bolts over to the apartments in search of Larry, thinking to look in his room and then the treehouse. And when he does, no. No! Larry! What did you do? Larry! Fuck, why? The scene swaps back to the present as Ashley gives her testimony. She says when she got the call, she rushed right over there and saw Sal. He was a bit shaken up, of course, but when she looked in the treehouse, there was no body to speak of, just pills and a bottle of booze. Ash wanted to call the police, but Sal and Ashley got into an argument, and she split. Sal goes on the podium and shares his side of the story. He states that not long after Ashley left, Todd came by and was shaken up as well, but brought gear. Something he's been working on for a while. A ghost-powered guitar. Once Sal plays it, he goes into this dark voided room where he meets the ghostly figure of Miss Rosenberg. She tells Sal that there isn't much time, but the guitar holds the power to stop the cultist group. She also says she can't leave the dark room, but will unbind Larry from the treehouse to help aid Sal. She teleports Sal onto the apartment's roofs along with Larry. What the hell? How did... Larry! Oh, I think Rosenberg is helping us somehow. I was stuck in that damn treehouse so long. It's only been a few hours since... You asshole! How could you do this? Why did you leave me? Why? I'm sorry, dude. I really am. But we don't have much time. Rose said the cold is here now and has to be stopped tonight. It's not going to be easy. I just can't believe this is real. I can't believe you're really gone. Sal, let's take these fuckers out once and for all. Working together, Larry would go into the other side and activate the stone blocking the path. Then Sal would blow it up using his new guitar weapon. They do this until reaching the first floor. A thing to note is that everyone seems to be out of it or just a lot more irritable. Also, everyone has these bloodshot red eyes, meaning they could be infected with what Luke was infected with. Reaching the first floor, Sal goes into Mr. Addison's room, only to find the tea all over the room, oozing a black liquid, the same stuff surrounding those on the other side. The green blob monster basically says that Sal can't do a thing and it's destiny, so it's useless to try. So in an intense battle, Sal defeats the monster and talks to Addison, the real Terrence Addison. He thanks Sal, but asks for one more thing: kill everyone in the apartment. Sal refuses, of course. All his friends and family are in there. Everyone he has ever cared for are in these apartments. Jim Johnson says, there is no other choice. This is the only way to rid the world of the red-eyed demon disease, spawning a knife for Sal to use. One by one, Sal went to everyone he cared for and killed them. Mrs. Gibson, Todd's parents, CJ and his friends, David and his wife, Chug and Soda, Robert, our own parents. Hey kiddo, there's some leftover lasagna in the fridge if you're hungry.
You know, I may not say this enough, but I am proud of you, Sal. You've come a long way, and I know it hasn't been easy. I look at you now, and I'm excited about the man you are becoming. I think you've got a bright future ahead of you. I really do. I love you, buddy.
I didn't have to relive that. I did not have to relive that. After finishing up, Sal bumps into Todd at the entrance. His eyes are bloodshot red and there's a mouth forming on his stomach. Todd says the cultist members abducted him and put something within him. Before Sal could do anything, the police show up. Ashley finishes her story. Apparently Todd called her crying, and so she finally called the cops. As they arrived, they saw a Sal covered in blood, not of his own, and arrested him. Ashley tried to talk to him, but he was just murdering nonsense underneath his breath. She concludes her statement saying, Sal isn't an evil or bad man. He's just sick and needs our help. Well, everyone else said, fuck that nigga needs to die. Also, half of them probably fake because who the hell is this dude? That ain't our doctor. The court rules Sal fit for capital punishment, and Ashley cries out that she didn't want this, that Sal just needs our help. But Ash, he stabbed a child.
There was just no way he's gonna get off scot-free. 3 years passed, and during this time, Ashley tried everything to prevent Sal's execution. In a last-ditch effort, she goes to the treehouse in hopes of finding something that shows some truth behind Sal's story. And what do you know? Larry's ghost appears. Ashley snaps a quick photo in hopes of showing the judge that he was telling the truth, but instead she got there too late and only watched a man, her close friend, her best friend, electrocuted to death. Now I'll speed run this next little bit of information because it is a lot, guys. Okay, it's a lot, and we're gonna get into it, but just not right now. So basically, Ashley feels like shit and is talking to Sal's grave. This is about 3 weeks after his death, and she's just talking about Sal, about all her fuck ups. She says that Neil and herself was going to blow up the temple, but instead got captured, and when she escaped alone, she didn't have the balls to actually set off the C4 that they had planted. She couldn't kill her friends. Maple apparently went feral because in the midst of the episode, she actually does tell Chug to, look after the kiddo, and she left. So presumably she drank that tea of some kind and just skedaddled out of there. So now she's all feral. So that's really cool. Apparently there's an informant that's been feeding them information about the temples and what's going on there, who also turned out to be Travis, who helped aid her escape from the temple from the first place. And he also gave her these pyramid things that are going to be really important later on. And finally, she burned down Larry's treehouse per request and has not been able to reach Larry ever since. She begs Sal to come back because she doesn't know what else to do. And as she says this, lightning appears above his grave. Are you guys ready for the biggest yapazoid you're ever gonna see? Because boom, the end. What a crazy episode. The entire time I wanted to understand why Sal was being trialed in the first place, and having the backstory is just, it's heartbreaking, man. I have to read the dialogue from the game itself because I find it be easier that it naturally plays and I just read it without fucking up at all. It's so much better for post-production. I had to watch all those people get murdered again. I am at my wits' end with this game. It really hurt my soul. I don't know if you could hear the dialogue change for me. I went from being really happy to being just so torn. And it's because I played this game a week ago and I'm reliving this bullshit. Anyway, telling you about this game really does not do it justice. When Sal had to kill everyone in the apartment, it felt personal. Okay, the entire game, you get to know these people. You see how over time the way they speak to you becomes friendlier. You begin to see pictures on the walls, family photos, new and bright relationships. Oh my God, it hurts. It really does hurt. But you want to know something truly heartbreaking? So when you're playing either Sal or Larry, if you're playing Sal, it usually says Father and Lisa. And if you're playing Larry, it's usually Mom and Harry. But in that final altercation, when you are going to murder them, the entire game, at that final moment, it says murder parents. Fuck. This is a very interesting episode. There's a lot to talk about. Other than the amazing build up to the crazy reveal that happens to lead to, Sal being trialed in the first place, the imposters obviously want Sal dead. Reporters and the doctors, they all want him dead. Sal is right. The cultist members are extremely dangerous because it just showed face. So as we know, Dr. Eon actually fell and killed himself by accident, right? And the person testifying could possibly be obviously an imposter. Not even could possibly be. He is an imposter. How the hell did he know about the treehouse? How did he know about all that? And I think, look back at that scene, who was there? A security guard. We know that police and detectives can be implemented within these like actual crime scenes and just have zero reports. I think that security guard was fake, bro. And I think he told whatever other imposter was like, yo, talk about the treehouse. Where'd the body go? There's so many questions. And then the reporter is something you could easily miss. I think in episode 4, you can turn on the TV and you will see a reporter with blonde hair and looking completely different versus the one that is reporting you with a scar and a brown hair. People are just impersonating everyone and it is insane. It's obvious that they want him dead. The doctor says he's unfit for reality. He's unfit to be out in society. And then the reporter probably made him look crazier. Maple being sick because she left early, that would have happened to everyone in that building. That is an interesting thing. So as we saw, the whole thing that Sal was destined to do was to kill those people because their soul has already gotten fucked, right? Even after defeating the thing that was fucking their soul up in the first place, they were still pretty bad. And I was thinking the whole time, like, well, how bad could it be? Are they just gonna like die and then their soul don't go anywhere? Because that would suck, right? But it was even worse seeing Maple's situation where she actually became feral. And that's really, really scary to think that everyone in that building could have become just like Maple in just 60 days? Even that? I think the red-eye disease really just implements the worst parts of ourselves. Similar to Frambo, where the Kamalas basically represent our depression, our guilt, everything negative. I think it has a similar effect on people. And I think Larry had always had this depression within himself. I mean, for God's sake, his father left him. So I think, yeah, there were some small hints of depression, and I think the red-eye demon brought it forth. And maybe you listened to the devil on his shoulder. But that is episode 4. A killer episode for sure. An amazing episode. But our journey at Sal is not over yet. Sally Fisher still has one last episode. Let's get into it. Episode 5, Memories and Dreams. An image flashes on screen, and it's some kind of weird version of the Tree of Life that forms a face. Sal is now in some form of limbo and begins talking to both light and dark. Sal asks for simple questions like, where the hell is he and how did he get there? Only to receive cryptic replies. Sal then gets annoyed and decides he'll just explore the void by himself until he comes across a decaying house. Once entering, Sal has 3 choices. Upstairs, a room full of light, and a room full of darkness. Taking the stairs, you meet the identity of the Phantom. It is indeed Jim Johnson, or at least some form of Jim Johnson. Sally apologizes for Lisa and Larry, but Jim forgives him, saying that it wasn't his fault and that he had to do what had to be done. Jim tells Sal that he still has a fight on his hands, telling him it's possible for him to get back to his old world. Due to actually setting the pyramids in the right form, it's possible to gather keys spread across parallel universes to get back to his own world. Through each door that takes the player to another world, we get a glimpse of Sal's past. I'm afraid moving still isn't an option for us. The house has been on the market for 4 years now.
It's an important step that I hope you will be able to take soon. In the meantime, I believe the cat will be of great comfort to Sal. He's shown a lot of improvement over the past month after he was assigned that kitten.
Are you sure he's ready to come home?
He is more than ready, Henry. Are you sure you're ready? Yeah, it'll be nice to have my son back. Within this cartoony art style, Sal feels a sense of familiarity and finds the key. When he does, lightning startles Ash awake. As she goes to the cemetery, she sees a ghostly figure of Sal hovering over the grave. Ashley follows some instructions given and left by Todd, and little by little, Sal is coming back. The next door Sal enters, we get this. Dad, when will Mom get out of the hospital? Do you think she'll recognize me with my new face? God damn it, Sal. Can we not do this today? I just miss her. She's dead. She's fucking dead. Mom isn't coming home. What about the man with the dog face? We've been over this, Sal. Nobody believes me, but I did see the dog man. That's enough, Sal. I chose the pink one because that's Mom's favorite color. I hope she will recognize me with it on. When we come to, we're in another universe. One that looks like, shit, I don't even know. Unturned? Roblox? Looking around and solving yet another puzzle, we obtain the next key. Ashley sees Sal become more whole and inputs the next puzzle piece once again, putting another piece back together. Sal enters the third room and we get yet another pass reveal. Are you ready for your first day of school, Sally? I don't know. It'll be fun. You'll get to meet a bunch of kids your age and make lots of new friends. Yeah, but like, what if they don't like me? That's impossible. You're the coolest guy I ever met. Me? Of course. Who else? I don't want to leave you. You don't have anything to be afraid of, my love. The teachers will take good care of you, and I'll be right here when you get back. I love you. I love you the most, Sally. Don't you forget it. And again, Sal is transported into a world with a different art style. This one being a very Tim Burton inspired art style. Just like before, Sal figures out the puzzle and yet another key is obtained. However, this time Sal seems to be incomplete and in a world of pain. In one final attempt, Ashley believes that Sal needs a sacrifice, a host, and decides to give herself up, splitting her wrist and slowly bleeding out. Sal once again goes into limbo, revisiting memories of his best friends. Are you okay, Larry? Man, yeah, dude, I just got something in my eye. Shit. I tell you, this movie gets emotional. Yeah. It's just so beautiful. I hope they end up together in the end. They deserve happiness after all the shit they've been through. Yeah. Hey, Larry. What's up, man? Do you think that anyone could ever love me like they love each other? Who wouldn't love you, man? Don't be stupid. You're Sally face, man. You're perfect, bro. Of course no one can move in. I'm surprised it took you that long to ask, honestly.
Well, his current leash is nearing its end, so that's just why I waited.
I'd be happy to have him at our place. I'm sure Larry will too, though Larry probably won't be able to move in until next year.
Oh, well, right. Well, thank you. Neil will be excited to hear the news, and I'll be very glad to have him close by again. Ugh.
What's wrong, Sal?
I'm just no good at this. I'm sorry for wasting your time. you've got nothing to apologize for. I've been having a great time painting with you. You're an amazing artist, Ash, and you're a wonderful teacher. I'll just never be as good as you, though. Sure you can. All it takes is practice and determination. But only if you want it, you know? You don't need to be good at everything you do. Sometimes we do things because they're fun and we like doing them. Or even just to spend time with the people that we like. Yeah, I guess you're right. I have been enjoying our time together. Very much so. I'm glad to hear that. Anytime you want to paint or even just to hang out, let me know. Ashley. I wish you would have seen for yourself the way I did. You weren't a failure in my eyes. You were always there for me. You gave me hope when I needed it most, even when you saw the horrible things that I had done. Even when you couldn't believe the reasons I had to do the things, you stood by me. That means everything. Sal really does love his friends and says that he wishes Ashley could see for herself the way that he saw her. Now with the ritual complete, the last thing Sal must do is seize the blade of Osiris. A huge lightning strikes Ashley's arm. As she awakes, her arm begins to pulsate with some form of power. Ashley can hear Sal's voice from within. The two have now become one. With Sal's power surging through her arm, the two go to the temple to put an end to this once and for all. Once getting there, the guards are noticeably absent. Sal and Ash are blocked off from the center of the temple, and before breaking in, we get one final detail of Sal's life.
Don't wander off so far, Sally.
I spent so long blaming myself for what happened. I never stopped to thank you. You sacrificed yourself to protect me. You were the best person I ever knew. Every day of my life, I've tried to live up to your sacrifice. With that, we finally understand what happened to Sal. All those years ago, there was no dog. Only a man dressed as a dog with a shotgun. Once entering, the cult has now killed everyone Sal has ever held dear. Well, at least Maple is up there. I actually don't know about the other three. The Archbishop of the cult now has a name. Kenneth Phelps. Wait a minute. Travis Phelps. Abusive parents. Holy shit. That's Travis's father, bro. Kenneth says we are too late and begins sending cult members after Sal and Ash. While that was happening, Sal and Larry reunite on the other side. Larry is much older now and seems to have seen so much while lost in the void. Larry gives Sal his spirit guitar while Larry fends off the shadows. Coming back to Ash, she's still fighting Kenneth, who's looking similar to that green blob thing from chapter 4. Travis comes as a backup and fights his abusive father, stabbing him and plunging him into the void. The party are all fighting different fronts. Ashley's fighting Kenneth, Larry's fighting the shadows trying to stop Sal, and Sal is fighting the Endless One across multiple worlds.
The creator of all things decays in our bowels. Its power is surging through our veins.
I don't believe you.
A broken soul resisting what is inevitable. Yet we are eternal and have surpassed God itself. You will soon become one of the endless. We are the final stage of all of humanity.
I will never join you. After some more fighting, the three of them are all able to take down the cultists once and for all. In the aftermath, the long night finally ends as the sun begins to rise. The best friends of four reunite once again. Todd is now saved, Ash and Sal remain as one, and Larry goes back to the void. Sal finishing off the game with this line: "Maybe we'll see each other once again in oblivion." The end. The end? Huh? Bro, I'm starting to see why people keep comparing Frambo and Sally Face, because they both end with the biggest open-ended story of my fucking life. However, while Frambo ended with many things left up to the viewers, understanding and theorizing, Sally Face has a very deep story, but answers are given if you're willing to look deep enough. And god damn it, am I willing to look deep enough. Let's get into this shit. In order for us to fully understand the story of Sally Face, we need to first deep dive on Sal and the cultist relationship throughout the story. From the very beginning, Sal's fate with the cultist was set in motion. In the very first episode in the dream sequence, Sal seems to be directing his mother's death as his fault, some form of survivor's guilt, right? But with the full story uncovered and the third party looking in, the cultists were the very people who even set this very thing in motion. The mask from the finale of the game, the one that Kenneth is wearing, is the same exact one we see in the final memory of what happened to Sal's face and what really killed his mother. It's possible that the cultists knew of this prophecy Rosenberg spoke of and wanted to eliminate the possibility by killing the young Sal, but ultimately failing. And that would also make sense as to why when Sal does grow older, they begin impersonating people who were close to Sal and impersonating people who can spread a certain propaganda to get him on the bad side of the media, right? So that's why they got the journalists to make Sal seem more crazy by inquiring about the Bologna story, and then that's why they got the doctor themselves to actually testify against Sal. It was all a way to just get him out of the picture, or at least try. Which also brings us to another question: who are the cultists and what are their goals? Throughout the game, they are shown to have the ability to cover up entire histories of murders, build a temple underneath the ground, abduct children without anyone even batting an eye, and even impersonate people who have died. Examples of these, as I said earlier, is the reporter that interviews Sal, and before that, well, Dr. Eon, for obvious reasons. Not to mention having fake police and detectives cleaning and covering up the story, and even having a completely different guy arrested for Charlie's murder. The list really just goes on, and it all points to the cultists having this widespread influence towards the top of the food chain. But the question still remains: why and how? Kenneth Phelps is a zealot who leads the Devourer of Gods, also known as the cult. The cult's beliefs stem from the Grey Tribe, which we actually do learn whilst playing as Ashley in Chapter 4 when reading Todd's research and Todd's notes. I don't really know what to call them. The Grey Tribe was a group of Native Americans sometime before 1623. They weren't outright evil to start with, but a small fraction branched off following their Sir Sidley Grey's prophecy in 1663, which became the Devourer of God, and combined with Phelps, Rosenberg, and the Addison families, they were said to have psychic abilities and wanted to revert the world to shadows. But how does any of this relate to Sal and his mother other than Sal's injury and his mother's death? Well, it's time for a game theory. It's my personal belief of mine of why Sal is so psychically gifted. It's because I believe Sal and his mother are descendants of the Grey Tribe. The legend of the Grey Tribe's origination is thought to be something of supernatural. The story goes like this. One day, an owl came from the sky and made love with a man. Weeks later, a young, beautiful woman burst out of the man. A pack of starving wolves came by and ate the man's remains. Now the wolves became embedded to the young woman for generations until one day they had become humans. Strange story, I know. This is all according to what Todd had in his notes in episode 4. As I stated earlier, the entire tribe was not bad. At this point, the tribe disbanded and only a faction became evil. However, my theory is that Diane Fisher, Sal's mother, was one of the bloodline of the natives that just simply did not follow Kenneth. However, my theory is that Diane Fisher, Sal's mother, was of the bloodline of the natives. And the reason Kenneth attacked Sal is because he knew of his blood. It would explain why Sal was able to see ghosts and seemed to be so in tune with his spirit so easily, not to mention him having visions as well. Within the game, I skipped over 2 major optional lore earlier in the video, that being the video game Seeking Providence and the VHS tapes that can be collected throughout the game. So first, let's start with the game itself, all 8 chapters of it. Looking online, I've noticed the wiki just outright gets some things wrong and never really explain the finer details of the game, so let me do just that. Chapter 1. She desperately sought a place among the council, so the aspiring witch traveled deep into the castle for the initiation trial to retrieve the Book of Forgotten Truths. So this is the very first chapter of the game, and it basically follows Rose, which is our Rose, her full name being Addison Rosenberg. She is shown trying to join the council, aka or become a cultist member. This is important because we know what role she plays against the Devourer of Gods later on, so it kind of just introduces us to that fact. Chapter 2. And the mysterious old woman gazed once again into Jim's eyes and said, "If you can find the door this key unlocks, we will share the secrets of the universe with you." Jim in this chapter is obviously Jim Johnson, Larry's father. The old woman is more than likely Mrs. Rosenberg because of her whole thing being about a witch. This chapter is important considering the end state in which we see Jim in episode 5, as he is connected to all different universes. Also, Jim was a cult member at some point, so that's kind of what this is implying. Chapter 3. He knew not why he was drawn to this place, yet could not prevent his feet from treading the dirt path before him. Perhaps it was simply curiosity, or perhaps it was destiny. Now in this chapter, Greg, the ghost from the bathroom, meets Stacy, who is Luke's wife at the time. The two share a bond, planting the seeds for future endeavors.
Hey guys, it's Yuri here, post-editing Yuri. I'm out at Banjo's, a coffee shop, and I was editing, and I found something I didn't quite put into the video. When Greg actually walks into that building, he walks up to Jim Johnson first, and Jim Johnson says only members can join. So this is also supposed to show the fact that Jim Johnson was in fact a cultist member at some point or time.
Chapter 4. When her husband learned of her indiscretions, Stacy knew there wasn't much time left. In fear for her life, she turned to an unlikely ally. Now this chapter showcases Stacy's betrayal and Rose's involvement with the cult in the current day, and why they weren't successful with the World of Shadows in the first place. Chapter 5. Playtime was interrupted by the promptly setting sun. In that moment, the young girl realized she had gone far too deep into the unfamiliar woods. In this chapter, Megan runs home and is given the cross necklace she's always wearing. She's then told to keep the secret from her father Luke, showing that even when Luke was alive, he was already an evil and scary man, or maybe was in the process of becoming the red-eyed demon. Chapter 6. A young occultist found herself tangled in the bowels of the castle, searching for final components the council required. In this chapter, the cultist member gathers skulls for a ritual. The cultist member isn't what's important here, but the how and the what they're summoning, more than likely the red-eyed demon. Chapter 7. In a moment, he found himself somewhere else. Even though Luke wasn't sure how he ended up here, he knew what must be done. The demons influenced Luke within this chapter, and within the game you are actually tasked with removing statues of Lacey, Megan, and even himself. And then finally, chapter 8. After learning what Herman was involved with, Mrs. Sanderson reached out to her friend for help. They would meet up later that night. I am so stupid. I'm sitting here reading this. Mrs. Sanderson called Charlie. But it wasn't Charlie, bro. It was like possessed Charlie. Anyway, this chapter showcases Mrs. Sanderson and that she knew about the occult and was taken out because of it. Charlie did in fact do it, just not the Charlie we know. Now, these games are meant to tackle some specific details, more so acting as the middle ground of sorts. We learned through Todd that the cult started in 1663, but within the games, we know Sal moved to the apartment in 1992, and moments before moving in, Mrs. Sanderson was already dead. So with that, we know that the game takes place anywhere from 1938 or maybe even a little earlier, due to the fact that that was the first successful summon of the shadows thanks to Rosenberg's retrieval of the Book of Forgotten Truths in 1992 due to Sanderson's most recent death. Also, these games show why the characters' ghosts are where they are. For example, Larry couldn't leave the treehouse because he had died there. Stacy was killed in her bed by Luke, and Greg was also found in the bathroom, and that could also point to Luke being his killer as well. And then obviously he killed himself, hanging himself with the noose, and his body and soul could be found there. Now, remember a long time ago when I said that earlier that Jim Johnson was an alien and that their sins that Sal had dreamed of was actually a representation of Jim's homeland being covered by shadows? Well, in chapter 4, while playing as Larry, we actually see the shadow in real time. Those covered in shadows having their souls devoured. The VHS tapes follow a young woman, Evelyn, who happens to be Jim's sister, as the shadow eats her soul. Hello? Is anyone listening? Is anyone there? Please, I need help. I can't remember who I am. It's so dark here. I remember a blinding light and then a burning pain washed over me. And then I was here. I can't shake this feeling of loss and despair. Am I dead? I saw the faded shape of a man. There's something important about him. I can feel it like a distant memory itching in the back of my skull. His image is fleeting and it's flickering and out of view. It's as if he trapped in a parallel reality, a phantom just out of reach. Or perhaps I am the phantom and he resides in the land of the living? I've cried out for attention, but I don't think he can see or hear me. There are others here, parallel to this place, like the man, though not significant like he seems to be. They are harder to see and appear less often, and something else, something ominous lurks beyond my vision. Even though my senses can't make it out, I can feel its presence. I can feel its gaze piercing through me. What's left of my humanity is crumbling away in this void. I fear what I am to become in such an endless void. Why? Why won't you answer me? Every passing moment just silently staring down upon me with no remorse. They're gathering as we speak, and they mean to open a vortex, perhaps into this world, a bridge between us and them. Does this not arouse your attention in any way at all? Sometimes I wonder if they're even real, if there is anyone behind the lens or just a corpse decaying at the helm. My pleas for help infinitely echoing into the vast emptiness of death. Hunger has been tearing my stomach, and yet I don't die. How long has it been? It's impossible to tell. And how long must I rot in this fucking prison? No food, no light, no contact, nothing. Nothing. Just a glimpse of life beyond my reach. I wish they would open that goddamn vortex already. I wish they would tear this world apart. I wish it would all just end. I need this to end. It's not here. She's not alive anymore. And we won't be. We're so hungry now. And this skin, this fucking skin, it's so itchy. Why? The skin isn't mine. The skin isn't mine. It's not mine. These ghosts, so full of life, strong, healthy blood, tender meat. Oh, how we crave their flesh. Yet they deny us. Soon we will be there, and they will have called, and we would have answered. The floor is moist. Is this me? There is nothing left. We have consumed. Why do they torment us so? Slipping from our grasp, these filthy fucking pigs. They are swine at the feet of God. Animal corpses dragging their claws about and skewering under the dirt, rearranging things, always rearranging. We will annihilate every molecule of their pitiful existence. So, it's to my understanding that the VHS tapes show the inner process of people's souls that have been devoured. We've seen it, how it looks from the other side while playing as Larry, and the aftermath as playing as Ashley when we see Maple, but this shows us the inner turmoil it can cause. Each label of the VHS tape creating a sense of levels to the deterioration of one's soul. And it's also a pretty cool insight on what Larry was exactly seeing in that treehouse. So it seems that when you die, you go to the other side, and time begins passing so infinitely, so much slower. Because to Sal, when he sees Larry again, he was like, I've been in that tree for so fucking long. While Sal was like, bro, you've only done that a few hours ago. So it shows just the deterioration of one's mind and why shadows become just monstrous beings at this point, because they know nothing else. Whatever they used to be is far gone. It was deteriorated. Now, with that, we have talked about everything that this game has to give to us. My next and final step in this video is that I want to paint you guys a picture in an in-depth timeline. It all began in 1623. One day a man was in the woods until he spotted something in the sky. The closer it got, the man was able to notice that it was an owl, and just as humans do, he decides to stick his little dude where it does not belong. After making love to the owl a couple weeks later, the man's stomach would explode and outburst a beautiful young woman with sun-kissed blonde hair. As the man's corpse would lie there, a pack of starving wolves would come and eat the body and forever be loyal to the young woman. In 1663, the wolves have slowly become human and began to disband into two separate factions. Two factions being that one follows Sidley Gray's prophecy of shadow and the other who simply just do not think it is true. This is evident from Tyler Gray's character, where Tyler translates to wolf and not believing the story of the beast who isn't evil, just a hungry beast. Over time, the Devourer of Gods grew, and aided by the Rosenberg family, the Phelps family, and the Addison family, researching on how to summon the shadow. In 1887, Addison family would buy a portion of land from the Rosenberg family, creating the temple below the apartments. Terrence was born in 1905. Shortly following his birth, his parents struck a deal with the cult's council and was chosen to become the entry point of the Endless One, secretly being fed human flesh from an early age. Sometime between 1917 and 1932, his soul was destroyed by the Endless Ones and would spread the shadows through his tea until 1999. Going back to 1930s, Addison Rosenberg would join the cultist group and retrieve the Book of Forgotten Truths, which then allowed them to contact and summon the Red-Eyed Demon. It was not only until 1938 the cult was finally successful in summoning their first shadow, which, as I stated, was the Red-Eyed Demon. With the influence of the Red-Eyed Demon, the cult would release a rally of shadows on Jim's homeland, causing much suffering and death, including Jim Johnson's nephews. Jim and his sister Evelyn would drift aimlessly through space until finding Earth. But again, Evelyn would disappear without a trace. Her soul is now being devoured and trapped on the other side for all eternity. While this was unfolding, Diane would marry Henry and have a child in 1976 named Sal Fisher. Jim Johnson would find himself living in Addison apartments and would meet Lisa sometime between 1971 and 1972. He would then marry and birth Larry, leading a peaceful life until he began to have dreams of his family's imminent death. And in fear of this, he would join the cult in 1983 to try and learn how to stop it. Many moving parts would happen in the years following 1984 and 1987. Firstly, Greg and Stacy would meet and have an affair. Stacy and Rosenberg would be helping to stop the cultists, and Jim would go missing in 1984. And finally, Luke would go on to kill Megan, Stacy, Greg, and himself in 1987, becoming the Red-Eyed Demon. In 1989, Kenneth Phelps, the current head of the cult, knew the prophecy Rosenberg spoke of, and with his psychic abilities, he foreseen his death by the hands of Sal. So in a desperate attempt, he'd go and wear his dog mask, grab his shotgun, and try to end Sal's life. However, thanks to Diane, he failed to do so. In 1992, Herma and Mrs. Sanderson would know entirely too much, and with a crazed, influenced, red-eyed demon Charlie, likely possessed, would go and kill Mrs. Sanderson. It wouldn't be until a few weeks later when Sal would move in with his father and encounter the death of Mrs. Sanderson. Larry and Sal would work together and get him arrested. However, at the time, they were not aware of the imposters within the police ranks, and the murder in Charlie would be covered up by the cult. A few months after that, Todd, Larry, and Sal would go on to discover the murders and destroy the Red-Eyed Demon for good. In the same year, Sal would become closer to Ashley, Todd, and Larry, finding out that the school is feeding human meat to the students for some ritualistic purposes, while also discovering the temple underneath the apartments. Did I mention Travis having that little eye thingy going on? More than likely being fed human meat just like Terrence, and that's why he loved Bologna Day, because he knew of the meat's contents. 5 years later, in 1997, Sal would spend most of his time laying low and studying the cult's activities. Todd would go off to college, Larry would stay back at the apartments, and Ashley would leave town to go to school as well. Things were pretty calm as Todd and Sal researched some pyramids and kept in contact with the informant in the cult. In 1999, remember when I said the Red-Eyed Demon was looking for a perfect host? Well, it wasn't Luke, it was actually Larry. The Red-Eyed Demon disease is still very much a thing at the apartments, and Terrence has now affected everyone in the apartments, including Larry. Larry, not wanting to be infected any further, ends his own life. Later, fighting alongside as they take down the Endless One, and Sal commits mass murder and kills everyone in the apartments to save their souls. Sal is then on trial for 2 years and is found guilty of capital punishment in 2001. This verdict was decided due to a large part of the cult and making Sal look much worse, having the reporter air everything live and Dr. Eon saying that he was not fit for society. 3 years would go by and Ashley would try to prevent his execution, but would fail to do so, and Sal's life would come to an end in 2004. A few months later, with some ritual powers, Kenneth is defeated due to Travis breaking the cycle, and Larry, Ashley, and Sal would fight the cult and destroy them for good this time.
Hi.
I always do this at the end of every video. It's just like I said, I don't know how to end these things. So I always just feel like it's weird for me to just say this happened and then it's gone. I always want to share my 2 cents on how the game as a whole affected me and how it's going to continue to affect me. I think I said this earlier in the video where I said that I tend to have a certain knack for a certain type of stories to be told. Hold on. I'm like looking at the camera and I'm like, why is my head, that's a tangent right there, boy. Anyway, let me restart. Hey. I always get to these parts of the video and I always just lose my train of thought. I always lose what I wanted to say. It's like, I feel like it's just a little weird of me to just end the video off as soon as I say, and this happened, done. I always feel like I need to put my 2 cents in, let you guys know, just be a little vulnerable in front of the camera here. And I just wanted to share some thoughts. When I played this game, I really didn't expect it to be that fun. I didn't expect it to be anything better. I truly thought, as much as I enjoyed Frambo, that not a lot could ever stand toe-to-toe with it. But I was sorely mistaken. Portable Moose, I think that's his name, the game creator, the indie creator, is a godsend. It is such a good game. And obviously the lore is super fantastical. I think that's why I could stretch my legs with this one, because it just genuinely felt like something I was able to just talk about and spit roll about without having to do mental fortitudes. It was interesting because when I did the Frambo video and I did the sequence of events, it was more so theoretical. This could have happened because we saw this. While I was doing this, I had to do math. I was like, when was Sal born? When did Terrence thing happen? When did Jim Johnson go missing? How old is Larry compared to Sal? And it was just a lot of these different notions where it gave my brain a little different mental fortitudes, if that's the word I could use. But the video game itself, the story itself, really did affect me. I don't think I cried. I genuinely just felt excited to play the game. I think that's a better thing. Out of everything that I could have said about this game, I was excited to play the damn game. I remember I was playing it and I wanted to stream it, so I did 3 streams back to back, and then I got really busy. And when I tell you I was in class and nothing else was in my head except just thinking about what this game could be, I kept seeing it pop up in my Explorer page, and I was just like, I can't watch this because I simply need to fucking play the game myself. And you can't take the world on by yourself. It's really the people you surround yourself with. I think it was at the very end when Sal had said that each and every day he had tried to live up to the sacrifice, to the person that his mother was. And while that was a very good thing, I also think it was a bitter sweet thing. It was almost a realization of what Sal was doing to himself. He had this survivor's guilt, and so he felt as if he needed to be better. He needed to compare to unfillable shoes. And I just want to say, don't do that. If you're in a position where your parents paid your way through college, or maybe someone bought you a new car, or maybe you just genuinely look up to someone, don't feel like you need to repay them with something material. Don't feel like you must make it because you simply have been embedded to do so. Make it because of the gifts that you received. Show your gratification through your mental wellness.